The question is, are you ready?
What do you guys want to talk about?
Let me talk to you.
Throwdown Nation, we are live with episode 81 of the Throwdown with Matt. It is a Thursday night. We are live and rolling on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter/X, Facebook, and Twitch. And tonight we are throwing down with a South Florida-based wrestler, the Shogun, Bruce Cross. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm all good. Thank you for having me here tonight.
Absolutely, man. I've noticed that you seem to be currently being featured somewhat on All Caribbean Wrestling, and I know that's got to be an exciting thing with Mark Henry having been named the CEO, and it sounds like ACW is trying to make some inroads into the mainland U.S. market.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's been great things. We were doing great things, which led us to getting Mark Henry's attention to begin with. And along with his tutelage, it just started skyrocketing from there. So I'm very much appreciative to be a part of this journey. Ride the wave.
Absolutely.
The ACW.
For sure.
If anybody's on the iOS system, Apple, definitely you guys, we have the All Caribbean Wrestling app. You can check us out. Our new season starts March 1st on Tempo Networks.
Awesome. So we'll go ahead and start with the first and most obvious question, and that is, how long have you been wrestling?
I would say I've been a student under JB Cool since 2016, but actively, I would say the past 2 years. This will be year 3, full-time active.
Gotcha. So you said you trained under JB Cool. Is he the person that primarily trained you, or have you trained under anybody else other than him?
No, he's been my primary trainer with All Caribbean Wrestling, and before All Caribbean Wrestling was his thing, Fight and Evolution Wrestling. So I've been a student with him, but I was juggling a lot of things. I had a lot of aspirations, so I didn't really leave student status until I returned 2022. Yeah, 2022 is when I turned December. Is when I returned back to pro wrestling full time. And obviously we had other people like Pope Elijah Burke for sure. So, but my primary tutelage came from Showtime JB Cool.
Got you. So in terms of the early portions of your training, what would you say was the most challenging aspect of pro wrestling for you to wrap your mind and your body around?
Okay, so the hardest part was grasping the business side of it. You know, I won't say I grew up watching wrestling because my mother actually didn't allow me to watch wrestling. So the wrestling I did watch growing up, I had to, sneak around and watch it while she was asleep or something like that. So the moves and The glam of it, we kind of get down pat just from being part of the community. It was the actual understanding of the business, your pacing, psychology, a lot of those things. It took a lot longer for me to grasp because those are things that you don't get immediately from watching. That's something that you get from understanding. So I would have to say understanding the business aspect of pro wrestling was the most challenging for me.
Got you. Got you. Speed round. Will Osprey.
Will Osprey accent.
Yeah. For sure. For
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
Yeah, something about him is and it's really it's really kind of tickled me to see is he has always been just amazing in the ring. But I mean, the work that he's been doing with AEW recently, they're actually letting him talk as well.
Mhm.
And he is he has developed into not only amazing in the ring, but he's a great talker too. So
I believe that was a great move for them to start letting him speak more often, honestly.
yeah,
It it definitely started gravitating more towards him as a person than him as the moves man, you know?
right, right. So you mentioned that you sort of had to kind of sneak wrestling viewing as a kid, but what would you say was your earliest wrestling related memory?
Hmm. My earliest wrestling related memory. Well, I won't say the earliest. Well, the moment where wrestling for me really popped was when I was a kid. I'll never forget the first time seeing the next big thing, Brock Lesnar, Superplex Big Show on, I want to say it
Yeah.
was a SmackDown, and the ring collapsed, and
Yep.
then the episode cut right then and there. And I remember being a kid, like, what? You can't do this to me. What happened? Like, I was going crazy. Then my mom was like, what are you doing? And I had to pretend like I was excited about a book or something, you know? So I had to
Yeah.
play it off, you know? But that one for sure. And Jeff Jarrett always hitting people with guitars. Those were my two
Oh
favorite
yeah.
things, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Double J didn't play.
No, no, he sure didn't. He'd call you slap nuts and
Yeah,
and bust a guitar over your head.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep. 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 You were talking about the early Brock Lesnar. I still remember Lesnar's debut when he comes in, and I felt so bad for Spike Dudley. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, he just got annihilated. But Spike was good at getting annihilated. That was kind of his lot in life. But
Mhm.
but yeah,
No,
man,
he took a lot of slams and bumps like a champ.
he sure did. He sure
He
did.
deserves to be up there with Mae Young. You know, him and Mae Young are the two badasses of bumps, in my opinion.
Yep, yep. Um, yeah, those two and Cheeseburger. Cheeseburger takes a lot of abuse as well, but what can you do?
Right.
So, was there a particular point that you can remember where your viewing and fandom sort of shifted and you started to think, I think I could actually do this? Was there a particular point that you remember thinking, I think I could be a wrestler?
No, for me, it was okay. So before I even became a wrestler, I was in the military. And when I got out the military and I reconnected with a bunch of my old friends, they introduced me to WWE 2K, the video game. Mind you, at this
Mhm.
point of my life, I've been out of touch with wrestling. So, but I was good at video games. So my friends actually, they got tired of losing to me in Soul Calibur and Tekken and Dead or Alive. So they played 2K and I was totally oblivious to everything. So they were just beating my ass in that game. And it pissed me off. I was like, I'm gonna watch this product and I'm gonna learn everybody and I'm gonna get good at this game, and you guys are gonna beat me. And by doing that, doing some of the research, I realized, with my size, I'm 6'4", 225. I was like,
Hmm.
you know what, maybe I could give this a try. A lot of the people there are relatively my size or smaller. So I was like, I just Google searched how to become a pro wrestler, and William Regal's top 10 tips. So number one was learn how to fight IRL. So that's what I did. I actually went into Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, became a two-time world martial arts champion before stepping into the ring. And it was kind of murder she wrote after that.
Got you.
I kind
Got
of
you.
just molded right into it.
What branch of the military were you in?
I was the Air Force Security Forces member.
Oh, very
So
nice.
base cop, infantry when you're downrange.
Gotcha, gotcha. My dad and my father-in-law are both retired Air Force. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Hoorah.
my dad was well, they were both in Vietnam, and my dad was in electronic warfare and intelligence, and my father-in-law flew F-4s. So
Okay.
yeah,
I guarded them while
yeah,
they were on the ground. I didn't fly them, but I guarded them on the ground for sure.
gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, it's but yeah, it's um and you mentioned, having a real world martial arts background. I it's been a long time, but a number of years ago, I trained in Brazilian jiu-jitsu for several
Right.
years and really enjoyed that. So
Oh, yes. Definitely. BJJ. I'm not ranked at BJJ, but I definitely partake in a few lessons here and there. My belt rank is Japanese Jiu Jitsu, so more standing and judo based.
right, right. So away from wrestling, what are some of your other hobbies and interests and outlets?
I'm actually a cosplayer outside of pro wrestling. I go to Comic Cons, dress up as heroes. I've done school visits, hospital visits, birthday parties, and stuff like that. Um, Between being a cosplayer, um, I was obstacle course racing for a minute at American Ninja Warrior aspirations, still do. And obviously martial arts. I'm still in the sport jiu-jitsu circuit, which the sport jiu-jitsu circuit is, I feel like the name doesn't match the circuit, because when you hear jujitsu, you just think grappling, but it's sport jujitsu. So you
Right,
throw on gloves, mouth guard, it's 5-minute rounds, punching, kicking, grabbing, submitting, throwing. So it's pretty much MMA just on a mat instead of a ring or an octagon. And you're in your gi instead of no gi.
right.
So we actually have every 2 years is our world tournament in that circuit. So the next one coming up, it will be in October this year. So I have to make sure I'm ready for that as well. Trying to become a 3-time world champion.
Very cool. Very cool. Speed round. Rhea Ripley.
Mommy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, yep,
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, a program that I'm looking forward to hopefully happening down the road is I would love to see Rhea Ripley do a program with Jordan Grace. There's
Yes.
a size difference, but I think those two could really have a great series of matches.
Like
So,
the size difference really is only in height because she's a short person, but I
right.
feel like strength wise, muscle wise, she can
Yeah.
still be believably and contend. I really feel like Jordan has the opportunity to become this generation's Beth Phoenix
Mhm.
or Lady Ultimate Warrior of that sort.
Yeah.
I really feel like she is in that seat and can have that. Um, I definitely liked her since I've been getting back into wrestling, so watched her journey from afar, and she's come a super long way. I loved where she's going right now, and I really hope that she definitely gets that opportunity. I see Lady Ultimate Warrior, new Beth Phoenix 2.0. I see it, so I hope it comes to fruition for her.
Absolutely. So, we're mostly a wrestling related show, but we dabble a little bit in pop culture. So, and I'm always looking for recommendations. Are you watching or listening to anything cool right now?
Let's see. Okay, watching. Well, I'm a big binge watcher on a lot of
Hmm.
things. So definitely just finished Squid Game. Squid Game was amazing. Can't wait for the next season or the other half of season two. They're trying to play us and making us think it's a third season. Um, Anime wise, definitely want to say Go Go Loser Ranger and Solo Leveling. Those two are my jams as well.
Got you. Got you. My wife is actually on the YouTube chat, and she just threw up a comment about your service in the Air Force. So,
I just see it now. Thank you, Julia.
yep, that's my
All right, I'm just
wife.
glad to make it back. I'm glad to made it back in full splendor. I didn't take for granted. I deployed 4 times, so I don't take that for granted at all.
No, yeah, you, especially in the world we live in now, you can't take anything for granted.
Correct.
So, are you originally from South Florida, or what is your hometown?
Well, I moved to South Florida when I was 13,
Hmm.
to be a lot closer to my dad. My dad got out the Navy when I was a teenager. So we moved to South Florida to be a lot closer to him. And then when I joined the military, he passed away while I was gone. So that's kind of why I represent St. Kitts. I never got a chance to go to the island with him, but because my dad came from St. Kitts as well, I wear St. Kitts on my chest when I wrestle. And
Very
my
nice.
dad was a huge pro wrestling fan. So growing up, I definitely remember pro wrestling from him. So definitely it's kind of homage to him, respect to him, kind of getting me into it and making him a part of my career as well, even if it's just a symbol on my chest.
Absolutely. So, what is your favorite thing about South Florida?
My favorite thing about South Florida is the weather.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love I love going outside in January in a tank top and calling it a day in some shorts, FaceTiming my friends in the northern states in their full coats and beanie caps. I can't
Yep.
I see it and I'm like, you know what? I can deal with the random hurricanes as
Yeah.
long as it
Yeah.
stays warm all the time and sunny.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, as a kid, before we moved to Atlanta, I lived for about 7 years in Central Florida, in the Cocoa Melbourne area, on
Nice.
the East Coast. So yeah, I mean, I remember what it was like to be able, like you said, to be in shorts and a tank top in January, and we can't do that in Atlanta, but you
No,
know,
no.
so. So, they say that the best wrestling personas are yourself turned up to 11.
Hmm.
So, tell me about in ring Bruce Cross. Tell me about the Shogun and kind of compare and contrast him with everyday you.
Well, all righty. Compare contrast to everyday me. Everyday me, I'm a lot more poised than in the ring. In the ring, I can be a good guy or a bad guy depending on how I feel, more or
Hmm.
less. In real life, I tend to try to be a good person. Sometimes you slip up, but you can't help it. We're all human. But
Right.
that would be more or less it. In the ring, I use all the moves that won me martial arts titles, judo slams, jiu-jitsu submissions, and stuff like that. So in ring, I would say it's just like how I am in competition on the mat. I kind of move the same way, calm under pressure, and I tend to prefer endurance over out muscling somebody, even though I can if I need to, but I prefer to conserve energy. So the compare and contrast more on the personality side when I'm the Shogun, especially if it's a rival. Oh yes, they're getting show enough version of me. But if it's somebody that I can kind of respect, they'll get the Daniel LaRusso side, the Cobra Kai side. Mr. Miyagi Do peace. So they can get either or. It all depends on how I'm feeling that day.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Speed round. Jay Lethal.
Oh my goodness. Woo!
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna say
um,
for Jay Lethal.
yeah. You
Greatest,
know,
greatest promo. That segment with him and Ric Flair, the woo off,
oh yeah.
definitely
I'm
top 10 historic moments.
you know, I watch that promo at least once a month just to get a good laugh in. It just never
Right?
gets old. It just never gets old,
Exactly.
man. I mean, so tell us about your very first match. What was it like? How did it go? What were your thoughts going into it, thoughts coming out of it? All of that. Just, give us the rundown on the very first one.
Hmm. Okay, let me see. My very first match. Okay, my very first match ever, very, very, very first one was I got introduced into Fight and Evolution Wrestling as Ray Jackson's tag team partner. Ray Jackson, Man of Action, was a martial arts gimmick,
Mhm.
and he was the heel for at the time. So he went to the martial arts circuit, got a champion for backup. I was supposed to be like his enforcer type thing. And that was the debut. So it was the Black Dynamites. That was our name back then. The Black Dynamites versus the modern day Savages. And my gosh, those were some big guys for sure. Uh, Part of the Samoan dynasty family.
Oh yeah.
And it was a good match. Definitely got beat quick. Definitely gave me a newfound respect for the power that's necessary in the business for sure. But that one was a great, great match. Modern Day Savages versus Black Dynamites. I want to say it was, I can't remember the name of the show because that was like 2017, 2018. Yeah, so that was my very first one ever. It's on my
Gotcha.
Instagram. It's like super. It's all the way there. I have to go on the post and I'll tell you which one it was, and it has the date for it. But that was the very first one.
Gotcha. So we've heard about the first one. Now tell us about your favorite match that you've been a part of.
My favorite match that I've been a part of was All Caribbean Wrestling's Rising Power. Rising Power was done in Ocala. That's where I won the FEW Digital Media Championship, my first championship in pro wrestling. It was a hybrid style match created by JB, actually, the Golden Ticket Gauntlet match, which is on YouTube. If you YouTube All Caribbean Wrestling, and you'll
Mhm.
see the Golden Ticket Gauntlet match. Um, that was that one was my favorite show so far. Wrestled in a new style of match that was very innovative, which led me to winning my first pro wrestling championship.
Very cool. So, and I know everybody has them, but what would you say is your biggest in ring pet peeve?
Hmm. You know, I don't really have one, to be honest. And I had to say it's because my time in the military has taught me that you can prepare so much, but then that oh shit moment happens. Sorry if cursing isn't allowed. I
Oh,
apologize.
it's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Okay. So like that's what we call it in the military when like even after all the preparation, but then something still happens where you gotta be like yeah, oh crap
Yeah,
moments happen all the time. So getting into the ring or the bit or anything, you gotta have that understanding that things can go not as you planned. So you can either let the world know something didn't go as planned and make it a big deal, or just roll with the punches and make the best out of it. And when things don't go as planned or as we thought, I kind of just roll with it and let's make the best out of it and let's not make it obvious. So I can't really say I have a pet peeve. I kind of adjust regardless.
got you. Well, I know that there are really kind of two and a half ways of preparing for a match. You can either work it out with your opponent in the back, you can call it in the ring, or you can kind of do a hybrid of both. Do you have a preference?
No, my preference is finding out who my opponent is, right before the show. That's the way I prefer it. Is much more organic that way versus knowing way ahead of time and stuff like that. So
Right.
it feels a lot more martial arts. Same thing with my martial arts tournaments. I don't know who I'm fighting until about 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes prior to the bout. So I'm used to operating like that. So you know, finding out as close to showtime as possible.
Gotcha. And really just kind of figuring the match out on the fly. Yeah,
Right.
gotcha. Speed round. Adam Cole.
Baby. Ooh.
Yep.
Oh yes, for sure. As you can tell, I value personality more than moves. So everyone that you've mentioned is more on their gimmick and personality more than their moves, except for the Brock Lesnar one. That one you can't. That was undeniable. But
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'm actually a huge Adam Cole mark. I'm hoping he can manage to stay healthy for a while because he had a tough run with that concussion that had him out for about a year, and then
mhm,
breaking his leg literally right afterward. So hopefully he can have another decent run and not run into any more injury issues.
yeah, bouncing back from injury is a big thing. That definitely happened to me. That's why I came back. That's why I say I've been active for this would be year 3 that I've been active because I tore my knee actually right after my first martial arts title win. Um, so I was out of everything for about 2 years.
Mm. So was that an ACL or what
Yeah,
did you do?
patellar tendon, PTL.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah, one of those 4 connecting ligaments, the major ones,
yep,
ACL, PTL, LCL, they are all it means to me is that I'm giving hell.
yeah,
So
for sure.
gained a lot of weight after that. So it took a lot of physical conditioning and transforming just to get back to being able to step foot into the ring and on the mat in martial arts. So I
Absolutely.
totally feel anybody when they have an injury plight because I've been there. I know how hard
Yeah,
that is to bounce back.
yep. So you mentioned that you've done some of both, but do you have a preference yourself between working heel or babyface?
Mm, personally, I would love to work face more personally, but um, working heel seems to teach me a lot more When
Hmm.
when I'm a heel booked as a heel, you have to lead and command a whole lot more than when you're a face, from my current experience. So I learned a whole lot more being a heel,
Right.
except for when I was a face against James Ellsworth. I actually learned a lot from my match with James Ellsworth last year's WrestleMania in Philly.
Hmm.
And so that was one of
Got.
my first time being a big face with a little heel that
Hmm.
had more ring time, way more ring time than me. So that was a really good learning experience for me as well. So
Gotcha. But yeah, I've heard that traditionally the heel is the one calling the match. So yeah, that's um, but yeah, I'm sure it was probably a thrill to get to work with Ellsworth.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, I got to be in a position that I don't normally get to be in, where in the business, usually if you're the bigger person, usually you're the heel. So that was one of the few times where I was obvious size difference and size advantage, but I was face.
Yeah,
So I learned a lot from Ellsworth in that one. Very thankful. Thank you, my good sir.
no doubt, no doubt. Um, so what has been your most unusual encounter with a fan?
Hmm. Okay. My most unusual, I won't say unusual encounter, but it was an encounter that made me realize that kayfabe is still alive and real to the non-US market.
Hmm.
We get so used to US fans always behind the scenes, dirt sheets, social media, trying to be in the biz but not in it. So, and you kind of forget that that's not how fans around the world are.
Right.
And being with All Caribbean Wrestling, so I'm wrestling in front of an international market. I deal with a lot more international fans now than US fans.
Hmm.
So it hit me like a ton of bricks when a fan, someone found me on social media, old interviews, old pictures, and it didn't match my current feud.
Hmm.
And she asked me about it. She was like, "Oh my God, isn't this?" And it just blew my mind. I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't realize how kayfabe was still alive and well throughout the world. It's just the U.S. market that veil has been removed, but for the rest of the world, kayfabe is still alive and well. So I've been doing a lot better on trying to keep that integrity as I move forward from that point on."
Gotcha. So, in terms of your in-ring work and your promos, who or what would you say are some of your influences? And when I say what, I mean I know that a lot of guys will draw influence from various pop culture outlets and such. So, what has shaped the Shogun?
Well, the primary thing, I kind of mixed show enough with Power Rangers as well because I'm a huge Power
Mhm.
Ranger fan. So my that green suit is actually the green Ninjetti Power Ranger I had modified to Saint Kit colors. My black suit is themed off of Black Ranger and Tron, the black
Mhm.
suit that I wear. And then obviously my Dragon Ball Z suit. So I'm a cosplayer, so I kind of blended my cosplay into my pro wrestling.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Mhm.
So here is a question. You were mentioning that when you were a kid, your mom was reluctant to let you watch wrestling. What does she think now that her son is a wrestler?
Oh my goodness, she tell me all the time, she's like, "Be careful, son. I don't like that wrestling stuff, but if you like it, I'll be okay. I don't want to see it." She tells me all the time. I invited her on two occasions to two matches, and she tells me straight up, she like, I don't want to go, I don't want to see it, I don't like that stuff. But if it's what you want to do, she'll share my posts, she'll share everything, like photos. My mom super supportive, but she made it clear she does not want to see it. So I'm like, I was like, I'm gonna trick her one day. I'm gonna get her in the stands. I'm gonna tell her I'm gonna get married and get her excited, thinking that she's getting a daughter-in-law. And then I'm gonna be like, psych, got you. Front row seat.
You know, if you could get her there, she would probably be all into it. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
you
exactly.
know, yeah,
Exactly. That's why I was like, it's all part of my plan. I'm gonna get her there one of these days for
no
sure.
doubt, no doubt.
I mean, unless you're watching Mon, then no, I respect totally that you don't want to see me do it.
Yep. So, do you have an all-time favorite match as a fan? A match that you can have watched it a million times and it just never gets old, and there's always some new little nugget you can pull from it?
Hmm.
It's a tough question because there's so
Yeah.
much.
I'm gonna answer this one based off of a scenario that just happened to me recently. I would say every time I watch Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, something that he has done that was so subtle sticks out to me every single time I watch him now. And he's definitely aspiring far as, face martial arts, being a
Mhm.
martial artist, but also being a face. So, and other than him, my martial arts references were Steve Blackman, which is, heel, um, Kyle O'Reilly, MMA, but heel during this time when I was watching him, and Speedball Mike Bailey. But even though he does face, I feel like his martial arts is more striking than grappling. So
Right.
I can't really translate to him because my martial arts is grappling style. Even though I did get taught Taekwondo by the Korean Army when I went to Afghanistan, but it wasn't enough for it to be my primary move set. So Ricky, when want to see athletic face martial arts psychology, every
Mhm.
single time I see something with Ricky, I see something new every single time. And it actually just happened to me maybe 3 days ago. A friend of mine, I have two buddies that aren't in the wrestling business, but they've been wrestling fans for like 20, 30 years. So I talk to them frequently so I can get outside mental traction on non wrestlers, but people who respect the biz.
Right.
That's one of my friends at Bonus Pack on Instagram and TikTok. You go ahead and guys follow their content. And they send me videos frequently. A little, hey, this is a cool move, I think, or this is a nice segment, stuff like that to help mold my mind. And one of my friends sent me a Steamboat versus Jerry Lynn.
Mhm.
And he was just doing simple maneuvers, the way he did it up and over, the way he does the arm drags, how he fires up with the crowd. It's just, I learned something new every time I watch Steamboat.
Absolutely. Speed round. Swerve Strickland.
Swerve, let's see. Okay. First thing that comes to mind for Swerve, honestly, I would say elevated.
Mhm.
Elevated. Once he moved over to AEW, there was a lot of things. And I doom scroll a lot on social media because I'm usually
Mhm.
up all night anyway. So I doom scroll a lot and I see a lot of opinions with the IWC. A lot of them aren't valid, but a lot of people do make really good points. And one of the main concerns with Swerve was people were afraid of how leaving Hit Row and stuff like that was going to affect Swerve. And a lot of fans on the IWC were pretty much concerned, and I love how he took that concern and swerved everyone. He
Right.
swerved it, and
Yep.
now look at him now. So I, as I've developed more into this business, I've grown to appreciate characters more than moves.
Right.
So, and that's a skill that I hope to tap into as my progression continues, just evolving the persona of the Shogun. So
Gotcha.
definitely
Yep.
proud of the image has grown from being the guy in Hit Row to being the guy with the swerve.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny. I recently I've actually started down the Lucha Underground rabbit hole, and I'm in the middle of season 2 right now. You know, just kind of watching when I can, and you know, it's been interesting seeing a much younger Swerve as
Hmm.
Killshot
Hmm.
in Lucha Underground, and it's yeah, you can definitely tell it's him. Uh, but I mean, you know, it's you know, he's wrestling somewhat of a different style, and it's just
Hmm.
it's interesting seeing him operate in the more lucha libre oriented environment that Lucha Underground obviously was. So it really just shows how versatile and how well rounded some of these guys are. Like even Brian Cage, you know, he was there doing a lot of lucha oriented stuff, you know, and that guy has always amazed me. The things physically that he can do for a man his size, and just he is a massive man, but I mean he can do things that you know he shouldn't be able to do. He defies the laws of physics. So, and this can be present day or past. Who would be a dream opponent for you? Who would you love to work?
Dream opponent, I would say, uh, martial arts. You know, when it comes to movies and stuff, you know, your character is reaching a certain level of development when they get to finally go one on one with their mentor. So
Hmm.
I feel like the Shogun, the character would be really good if I can mimic that and show my transcending uh inability. So my mentor, Showtime JB Cool. One day before he hangs up the boots, I gotta get a one on one.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what would you say is your favorite move? What is something that you just really love doing? And on the flip side of that, is there a move that you either won't do or you would rather not do? And that can be giving or receiving.
Giving, let's see. There was a technique done by the Heart Foundation, Natty, in particular, that I really loved, which was the hammerlock into the fireman's carry takedown, and I transitioned to an armbar from there.
Hmm.
I really love that transition because I do that in judo already. That's drop sanage um, into an armbar, so it kind of resembles what I've done in my martial arts competitions as well. So using that was a very easy translation of skill. So that's one of my favorite things: the fireman's carry takedown into the straight arm bar.
Hmm.
And let me see, the move that I won't so far. I won't. I haven't been able to overcome my fear of top rope maneuvers. Obviously, I'm 6 foot
Hmm.
four, so standing on that top rope is a different perspective for me than it is for most people. So I would have to say one day I would like to overcome that. So for now, I don't do any offensive things off the top rope. but one day that could change.
Got you. So you've been doing this long enough that I'm sure this applies, and I'll go ahead and ask, what hurts right now?
Everything.
Or what? Yeah, I was going to say, what doesn't hurt?
Yeah, I would say the pain is to remind you of how far you've become, how far you have come, and how far will continue to go if you keep up the traction. So, like the song says, pain without love, pain you can't get enough.
Yep. Speed round. Andrade.
Idolo.
Yeah.
Yes, I really like what his return to WWE. I really like the way he's being presented. Very clean, suave, idle. I don't know what to call it right now, but definitely different from when he was before he left. Um, and I like this cool, calm, collected version of Andrade a whole lot
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, he's definitely going on the vibe of tranquilo.
Yes,
You
exactly.
know?
And I really like that for him. I feel like it's was way better fit for him than before trying to be that mean lucha guy. What he's doing
Right.
now, I feel like he has a lot of possibilities.
Absolutely. So, what is your take on the role that social media is playing as a promotional tool in wrestling?
Um, I feel like y- it's going with the times. It was either invest in social media or be phased out of pop culture. So I feel like, pro wrestling didn't have a choice but to totally embrace social media. Um, and that with that being said, like I said, I doom scroll a lot. So the internet gave the IWC a lot of people think that their opinion is more important than what the actual product is. So it's positive and negative. At the same time, they're reaching a lot more people, but a lot of those people that are reaching are edge lords too. They like to trash things that shouldn't even be trash just because they feel like it makes them a cooler person. So it was a necessary evil. That's the word I'm looking for.
Got you.
Mhm.
So, I mean, obviously I'm not asking you to speak for him, but based on what you have seen so far, how do you feel about the vision Mark Henry has for all Caribbean?
Oh, I love it. I've been with this company since the beginning, and I don't plan on going anywhere else. All Caribbean Wrestling. That last show that we did in the Bahamas was fantastic. Every time we go to any of the islands, it's just an amazing, amazing experience, and it's going to be. It already is amazing. It's going to be phenomenal going forward. So I tell everyone, please tune in All Caribbean Wrestling on all social media handles: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, AC Dub. And if you're on the if you're on the Apple iOS system or Roku, All Caribbean Wrestling app, we will be on Tempo Network starting March 1st.
That is exciting. So, if you could give any advice, I mean, knowing everything that you know at this point in your life, if you could give any advice to your younger self, what would it be?
Um, I would say start training earlier than what I was already. And training everything, martial arts, pro wrestling. I feel like if I had this motivation when I was in my early 20s, I feel like there were a lot of opportunities to learn of the culture back then that I missed out that could have probably helped me out today.
Got you.
Mhm.
Speed round. Drew McIntyre.
Drew McIntyre. I would say for him, the first thing that comes to mind is I would say transform. He went
Yeah.
from the way that he transformed over the years to where he's at now. It it doesn't even look like the same guy from
Yeah.
10, 12 years ago. And for me, I wasn't watching wrestling back then. That era, I would say about 2006 to 2016, whatever year it was that Rollins turned on the Shield. That's what brought me back to watching wrestling. That 2014 or 16, somewhere around there. So that gap, I didn't watch wrestling.
Right.
So I didn't know Drew McIntyre prior to what I saw when he came back around the Thunderdome time, or when he came back with the Miz. I remember that he brought Miz brought him back,
Yeah.
and so when I saw him, I thought he was a new person. But then they were given, his video package, and I'm like, this can't be the same guy. What? No
Yeah.
way. And then you go doom scrolling, you go online, you check out some
Hmm.
matches and stuff like that. I'm like, man, this guy really became this muscly butterfly. I don't know, like he went from this little larva to this big old intimidating person. So I definitely respect the grind, especially having to get myself conditioned after an injury. So to a newfound respect for the physical conditioning of it and how he transformed himself. I was just like, man, I had no idea this was you. Holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes the situation that he was in, sometimes getting released and having to go kind of find yourself, reinvent yourself, and put in the work, and then be able to come back later is sometimes the best thing for you. Because I mean, I feel like being forced to sort of confront yourself and like I said, more or less reinvent yourself really sparked a lot of what was missing in him. So sometimes a bad situation like that ends up being the best thing that could have ever happened for you.
Much agreed. Much agreed.
So, do you have any pre-show traditions? Any things that you try to do consistently before you walk through the curtain?
The only thing really just I make sure that I am warmed up and stretched for sure. That's my main thing. I just do make sure I do my hit warm up. I do a lot of hit workouts, so I have a pre-workout ritual. But that's about it, more or less. Just I make sure I stay stretched, hydrated, and I don't eat maybe 2 to 3 hours prior to show start time. Those are my main things because ever since I've seen Here Comes the Boom, you ever seen that movie with Kevin
Yes.
James when and
Yeah.
then after his fight he ended up puking all over the person. I it's always one of my fears, martial arts or pro wrestling, that I ate too much and then my body out of exhaustion does something embarrassing like that. So I make sure my stomach is empty. I don't care if it's rumbling like a high school marching band. I won't eat until after my match is over.
Got you. Got you. So something that we've done in all of these that's just been kind of fun is we've let the current guest pose a question for the next guest. So
Hmm.
a previous guest of mine, uh, a wrestler from out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Sean Phoenix, posed this question, and that is, in terms of your wrestling career, are you meeting your goals? And if not, what is holding you back?
Oh, well, so far I've been meeting every single goal that I've set to myself. With since I've returned from injury, those were my main things. When I returned from injury, to lose the weight, successful debut, win a pro wrestling title, and win a world martial arts title. Those were my main things, my main goals from returning from my PTO injury, and I have hit each of one of those so far. So I
That's
can't really
awesome.
say, yeah. And but yeah, I can't really say I haven't reached any. All the ones I set for myself since returning, I have met.
Gotcha. Well, since this is part of a series, do you have a question that you would like to ask of the next guest? And
Hmm.
I can go ahead and tell you who the next guest is. I mean, the question does not have to be particular to this person, but the next guest this coming Wednesday, I've got a wrestler by the name of Danny Orion.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
so like I said, if you have a question you would like to ask, um, if you can't come up with something right now, you can always DM me if something occurs to you.
No, I have one now for him. My question
Okay.
would be, what was the biggest challenge in getting his gimmick over?
Oh, that's a good question. How would you answer that?
I will answer that based off of something I said earlier, which Mark Henry actually helped me out with this a lot after our show in Jamaica last year, Jam Rock. Welcome to Jam Rock. That was the first time I met him, and actually, he gave me a lot of pointers on psychology for big man work as well. So I will answer that more or less. Just the biggest challenge was mentally wrapping your mind around delivering a message without doing too much. So less is more and more is less. So that was one of the things that I had trouble adjusting with. You got to do this, you got to do that. Oh my God, I got to do all these things. How come I'm not getting the traction that I think I deserve? It's because I was doing too much. So
Gotcha.
that was the hardest thing, understanding the volume of delivery.
Gotcha. So we're pretty much toward the end of things now. So do you have any upcoming shows or anything at all that you'd like to give some hype to?
Oh, absolutely. All Caribbean Wrestling. The next one is Sin City Burn, which will be in Vegas during WrestleMania weekend. And then Dominican Republic next month, the 16th of March, Casa de Fuego. And obviously Baja Bash 2. That's like our WrestleMania show. That's going to be in Nassau, Bahamas in June. That one, and then we'll be back in Trinidad and Tobago in September. So every month we're going all over the place with All Caribbean. But coming up, Casa de Fuego, Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, Sin City Burn. That's going to be in Las Vegas, Nevada during WrestleMania weekend, and then Baja Bash 2.0, Nassau, Bahamas in June. Ride the wave.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So you've got a full docket ahead of you.
Oh yes,
That's a
looking
that's a
forward
good
to this.
thing, though. It's a good thing. Well, like I said, as far as what we've got coming up here on the Throwdown, next Wednesday, the 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern, I've got episode 83, and that'll be with Danny Orion. And
Mhm.
then next Thursday, the 13th, also at 7 p.m. Eastern time, I've got episode 84 with another wrestler by the name of Jacob Braun.
Okay,
But
I'll be
but
tuning in
anyway,
for sure.
awesome. And for those of you that have been watching this live, thank you. For those of you that'll be seeing this on replays and clips on the web, thank you for that. If you like what we've got going here, definitely spread the word. Do the old like, comment, share, subscribe. And I want to thank you, Bruce, for your time. This has really been a pleasure. Just getting to pick people's brains and just nerd out about wrestling is just such a blast. I mean, it
Oh,
really
yeah.
is.
No, I want to say thank
And
you for reaching out and having me here and inviting me to be a guest. Couple months in the making, and I was super excited, as you saw on social media, sharing it every day.
I appreciate you doing that, man. That meant a lot. And you can definitely consider yourself to be part of the Throwdown family now, and you've got a standing invitation to come back anytime you want. So, if you
I'll
got
be back
something you
after
want
my next title win.
yeah, I was going to say, if you've got something you want to talk about, you can, just, give me a holler and we'll get you back on.
Right
So,
on.
and like I said, I'll be back next Wednesday night at 7. And until then, be good to each other, love each other.